Book of the Dead, Naturam Demonto, an awful read if you're looking for something light. This cursed tome goes by many names and has been in the possession of many individuals throughout the years. However, most of these occurrences and titles come from the land of fiction. Villainous volumes have been found in folklore all throughout history though, so at some point, maybe a truly evil bundle of pages did actually exist. So, what if the Necronomicon was real? Let's talk about it. Books bound with human flesh and filled with demonic writing aren't exactly a new concept. The idea of evil goes all the way back to the beginning of humanity and is developed in all sorts of different ways. However, if we're going to talk about the Necronomicon, we've got to jump forward to the early 20th century. Howard Phillips Lovecraft, famous for penning plenty of petrifying tales of monsters beyond human comprehension, came up with a new idea. To tie a bunch of different stories together, he would create a fictional book filled with information concerning eldritch horrors. It would be written back in the 8th century by a poet who wandered the deserts around Yemen, exploring lost temples and discovering unspeakable truths. In doing so, the writer managed to compile one of the most evil texts ever seen by man and eventually met a gruesome fate because of it. After his death, the book was translated into many different languages and made its way around the world, spreading its vile influence. As a relatively definitive guide to cosmic horrors man could never hope to fully understand, it makes many appearances throughout Lovecraft's collection of stories. It's referenced in most of his famous tales, from the Dunwich Horror to At the Mountains of Madness to selected letters other authors have compiled from him. The Necronomicon is such an influential symbol that many of Lovecraft's contemporaries and admirers make use of it in their tales of the weird and inexplicable. While many consider the book itself to be cursed, it's more likely that it simply contains dangerous information. Although it has been said that anyone who's had contact with the book will come to an unpleasant end, so who knows. Simply touching or reading the book likely won't cause one's life to immediately fly off the rails, but if someone were to act upon any of the rituals or incorporate symbols found within the pages into their lives, things could get ugly. Formulas for mind transference and chants meant to summon outer gods can be found here. Descriptions of unspeakable abominations and information on where to find them is easily accessed once you have your hands on a copy. Illustrations of non-Euclidean spaces and footnotes detailing ways to get there are included too. In the right hands, the Necronomicon can be used to unleash hell on earth and grant users incredible powers. All at a very hefty price, of course. But as a book, it doesn't seem as though it's anything more than a compendium of cosmic horror information. You can find books titled Necronomicon out there in the real world. However, these texts are not the legendary tomes detailed in Lovecraftian tales. Many fans and authors in these same circles as Lovecraft published and sought out Necronomicons, although most of the time this was thought to be a joke. Fake tomes written in Latin were published, destined to be conversation pieces and decoration. Some enterprising writers even tried to pass off their work as translations of ancient texts that directly inspired Lovecraft in the first place. However, nobody has any definitive proof of a real Necronomicon at this point. And now that Lovecraftian horror is more popular than ever, you can find plenty of different Necronomicons published by big book businesses. Now that we've sort of covered the real history of the book, let's re-ask what we all came here for. What if the Necronomicon was real? Plenty to think about here for sure. If this tome truly existed, and existed in the way that H.P. Lovecraft outlined in his tales, we would have a whole lot of extra terror to contend with. For this book to be real, the made-up author Abdul Alhazred would have actually needed to compile all of this unnatural information from his travels. And if this were to have actually happened, it would imply that cosmic horrors truly do exist within our world. Not exactly something we'd be too comfortable with, right? There are a lot of implications that follow the Necronomicon around, and plenty more to worry about if this evil text makes it into our reality. On top of the general acceptance of a world with more unspeakable entities that could tear minds asunder in moments, we'd also have folks who would try to take advantage of this kind of power. You know the ones, the Whateleys and the denizens of Innsmouth and so on. Folks would get their grubby hands on the Necronomicon, or even just passages from the book, and begin to wreak havoc in every conceivable way. They could hypothetically summon yog-sothoth and have someone breed with it, resulting in a horrific barn-sized monster hell-bent on annihilation. Or maybe they would end up using the ritual meant to accelerate a human's transformation into a deep one to change a seaside community more quickly than previously thought possible. A lot of cosmic horror would leave the cosmos and make its way to us, that's for sure. To complicate matters, there's also the fact that we now live in an age of unprecedented information sharing. Back when the Necronomicon was dreamt up, getting a copy would be almost impossible unless you knew exactly who to ask and where to look. Most folks probably wouldn't even know about the book in the first place, but now, folks would be sharing excerpts online, left and right. Everyone would be trying to summon a great old one in exchange for power. It would not be a good time. No matter how closely guarded this text was, no matter how many locks and panes of glass were between the tome and the public, the moment any information got out, plenty of folks would be looking to make use of it. And that is a terrifying thought. I wonder if the unfortunate end associated with physical copies of the Necronomicon would also apply to those using the WikiLeaks version. Now, that was all just based on the Lovecraftian interpretation of this book. There's the Evil Dead version, which can harness the Kandarian demon's abilities to control both the dead and deadites, but that's a whole other can of worms. That one making it into our world would be bad too, but a lot of the power there is explicitly linked to the actual physical book, so it couldn't spread as fast. Well, there you have it. If the Necronomicon was real, we'd have to deal with the fact that elder gods and great old ones actually exist and could ruin us on a whim. Plus, all sorts of folks would do their best to exploit the book for personal gain, resulting in a whole lot of horrid stuff happening. So, what do you think? Would the Necronomicon being real be net good or net bad? Could it be used simply for scholarship, or would people always end up falling under its evil influence? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more saucy ones, from how would a Godzilla attack hurt the economy? NW10 Nats says the music theme in the background always blends perfectly with the narration. Well, I'm glad it's working, thanks for the feedback. Here's Chica says, here's something creepy. What if Godzilla and Kong combine? You gotta admit, if they fuse into one, they will be way more dangerous. Kongzilla, or King God. God Kong? God Konga. We can't make this happen until we've got a good name for it. Pratham Shah says, I didn't know I needed this video, but we knew, and you got it. You're welcome. Dino King says, Godzilla could stomp on the Avengers. The MonsterVerse Godzilla weighs 100,000 tons. You know what? You're probably right. He probably would stomp on the Avengers. And that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.